So this is our monthly campus conversation. We normally have these at noontime, and the topics are open. But what I found is noontime is not a great time to get student participation. So we wanted to try one in the evening to try to focus a little bit more on student issues. And I'll do what I can up here to respond to your comments and questions. And I see I have a lot of support folks around here who probably know more about a lot of these things than I do, and I'll feel free to farm them out accordingly. But I want you to feel free to ask questions, offer comments, and so I'll open the floor. That looks like a question. We do have to ask you, because we're actually streaming this, to talk into a microphone.
My name is Chris Stump. I'm with the Student Network for Action and Progress, a super PAC here in the state of Hawaii that's trying to bring the issues of students to light to the legislature and to the Board of Regents. I just want to know what happened to the money that was allocated for Sustainable Saunders 4 years ago, and why was it stripped from Sustainable Saunders and rolled into Sustainable UH?
Does anybody know the answer to that that's here? My support is Steve, do you have any idea? Susan? Sustainable Saunders money from a few years ago?
I don't know.
Oh, give Steve a mic, please.
Funding stripped. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, there was money that was allocated to the Sustainable Saunders initiative back in 2009. As of now, that money has been rolled into Sustainable UH, and that money the allocation of that money was in charge of it has been stripped from the Saunders building and given to the computer services building.
Okay. So I think you're talking about $500 that was allocated a few years ago. And that $500, I believe, talking to Professor Johnson this morning about that, was that money was allocated for student interest in projects related to sustainability for the Manoa campus. And it wasn't a specific group, but it was for the support of sustainability at a student level across the campus.
My only rebuttal is this person who now has control of gate cameras uses to answer emails or answer questions about it, not only from me, but also from the Sustainable UH.
So are we talking about Philip Johnson? Okay, so I spoke with him this morning, and there was no reluctance to communicate at all, and he's fully open about this. So I think the characterization of stripping money from a different account is mischaracterized. I think also characterizing him as non-communicative is also mischaracterized. And I think if there's something I can do to help facilitate communication towards some resolution of this, I'd be glad to do it. All right? Okay, good.
You look like you have a question. Question. That's all right. I'll give you a stupid answer to go with it.
I just came here with him, so I don't really know what this is. And so I asked him, what do you do?
What do I do? That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's different every day, I'll say that. I'm nominally responsible for all aspects of operation of the Manoa portion of the UH, which includes this campus, Kaka'ako, the telescopes on Maui and Mauna Kea, ag stations all over the state. So it's UH Manoa. And ultimately, when something goes wrong, I'm to blame. So.
Hi, I just came from the Sustainability Council meeting, and we were talking a little bit about Susan was telling us about the Sustainability Center, and I guess my question would be, what is the timeline for that rolling out, and like when can we expect degree programs to be ready, and when can we expect dedicated staff to come into the university to have the Sustainability Center and all these different initiatives move into action?
I'll start off by talking a little bit about the dedicated staff. So that was on my big wish list, was funding some of the things that we've developed out of strategic planning. We had a little bit of excitement at the Ledge this spring, and we were thrown all total a $23 million surprise. $7 million that none of us saw coming was moved from Manoa to other campuses. And we didn't get the money for the faculty salary raises, the UPA salary raises. So net, and the governor restricted $2.5 million, which we hope to get back, but that's sort of a cautionary move they make. If you add all those three up, it was $23.5 million hit to Manoa. And so some of those things on the wish list had to get thrown overboard. And the staff for the sustainability initiative was on that list. We're going back in the biennium year to the Ledge and going with great optimism that we'll get a lot of that restored. If that happens, we'll be able to do that right away. If not, we're going to have to look at trying to optimize what we have now and maybe finding those people here at the university in a different type of way by restructuring. I know there's a lot of activity on putting together sustainability course programs. The nice thing about a lot of those curricular decisions is many of them amount to collaboration rather than new expenditures. So I think we should probably have that kind of work done very quickly, and then we can take it through the traditional faculty senate processes for approval. So I think that should be able to go on. That should be ongoing and go through the process immediately. People are quiet. I know I'm intimidating. It's my size.
What are you most excited about in the future for UH?
The thing that excites me the most is I see so much positive momentum about us becoming more student-centric. I see a lot of people, as I look around this room, a lot of the staff people here are really excited about making sure that students who come here have a path, and if they're having trouble finding a path, they can see somebody who's going to take it as their interest. My goal is that when a student has a problem and they go to see a staff member, that becomes that staff member's problem. And they may not be the one to have the answer. I mean, if I happen to be that staff person, chances are I'm not going to be able to answer your question, but I will work really hard to make sure I put you in touch with the person who can. And I'm excited by some of the changes I see in advising here, the new STAR system, some of the devices we have to let you guide your path. I think we have a real focus on academic rigor. And I think that there's really a feeling too that we have to be also a campus that has good student services and good ambiance, better classrooms. I always, this building we want to have renovated. It's now moved up the priority list. We think we're going to have this be believe it or not, as you sit in this room and you look at my favorite view is the ceiling. And you look at that, you think, it may seem a small thing, but if we have a ceiling that looks like that, does that mean we're committed to excellence? And do we really care that you're getting the best education? And what I'd like to do is have a place where you know that there's a commitment to excellence, that we care a lot. And this building is going to be a showcase for that. In case you don't know, this is one of 3 buildings in the whole country that a number of our faculty and staff have worked with the Department of Energy to redesign. So it'll be a zero footprint, I believe I have that right, and zero energy, net energy consumption building going forward. But also have great classroom space that allows modern techniques to be used. So the whole design will be, there basically won't be air conditioning in here except the very top floor where there might be servers, or just this. But the rest will make use of knowledge from our native Hawaiian culture and how to use airflow and things like that. It turns out, as you probably know, we're never more than really 10 degrees from comfort in Hawaii. And so if you actually have moving air on your skin, you feel pretty comfortable all the time. Yet, so many of our buildings are hermetically sealed. We chill them down to the dew point of 42 degrees or whatever it happens to be, and then heat the air back up. And to save money, we only take it back up to 58 degrees and you freeze, which is crazy. So this will be a showcase, and we think we're going to be successful in getting the money to do that. So that was a long-winded answer to a question, but I think, Steve. Oh,
Can I ask a question?
Tom.
So what excites you about being here? Or the future, your future in this space?
Probably the wrong person to ask about the future. I mean, I'm undecided about my major, my path, my direction, and everything. I don't know, but at least I have one, and that's more than, I don't know, more than I could ask for sometimes. Sorry?
And what would excite you?
What would excite me? I mean, I'm looking more closely into Shiler now, and that's pretty amazing. They have some really solid resources, especially over at Pace, looking in that direction. And like he just showed me this webpage of like 50 entrepreneurs who have like, who are definitely out there in the business scene, who are willing to meet with kids like me like any day, which is like unreal. And yeah, there's things like that opening my eyes to what UH has. It's,
Fantastic.
yeah.
That's great to hear. That's a great program, too.
Oh, yeah.
And Hawaii needs you. We do not have a very good record of entrepreneurship here, and that's why PACE is such a great program, and trying to get that student involvement. We're at a research university that's about 25th in the country in terms of public universities in research volume. So we have all these great things going on in the labs and the research labs and things. And we need that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So I hope you find your passion there.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're really about. I often say, if all we do, when you come in, you're 17 or 18 years old, if you're a traditional student, and you leave at 21 or 22 and you're excited about something, we've done our job. Okay. And it might be in the classroom, it might be in the lab, it might be out doing a service learning project, it might be in a club, might be on a sports field, but if you leave here passionate about something, that's what I want. That's it.
Amen.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about lots of stuff, but that's awesome about Kaikendo. I'm really excited about that. But then that reminded me about a figure I heard recently that UH Manoa spends about 37 million on electricity. I don't know what the exact number is.
That's close enough.
Okay, and then I also heard that about a fifth of that is paid by the student, or a fifth of students' tuition goes towards electricity because of that figure. So on top of the Kaikendo project, what else is I mean, maybe Steve can answer this question better, but what else is going on this campus to work on energy efficiency or to work on our goals that we've written down? Well, I think it's like 30% by a certain year. Like what's happening to meet that goal or to even exceed that goal for the better of the students and to help with the budget crisis. And I think it'll be an all-around solution, but I'm just kind of curious what's happening and maybe how students can find out about it without asking in these kinds of settings, if there's a more public forum for that.
That's a great question. I'll start, and then when I'm out of my depth, I'll ask Steve. But your analysis is pretty much spot on. If you think about it, our utility bill is something like 40 million, and 35 of that's electricity. So there's roughly 14,000, 15,000 undergraduate students paying tuition. Grad tuition's also something, but we don't get anywhere near as much. So if I just take 35 million, divide it by 14,000, I get $2,500. Your tuition's $9,000. So it's more than a quarter. Throw in the grad tuition, let's just call it a quarter. A quarter of your tuition is going just to pay the electric bill. So that causes me sleepless nights. It really does, because we've actually cut our usage by 25% in the last, but significantly. There's been a significant, we've done green days, we're doing monitoring of buildings and all that. What's happened though is the charge per kilowatt hour has been going off the charts. And I think if you just go back 10 years, our electric bill was something like $11 million. Now it's 35. And we're actually using probably about the same kilowatt hours as 10 years ago. There's a couple things we're trying. One, we're going to put PV on the parking garage in a private, what do they call them, PPA. And that'll give us a couple megawatts, I believe. It's still a dent. It's just a little dent. The kinds of renovations we're talking about here in Kuykendall, we're looking at revamping HVAC across campus as part of our deferred maintenance and trying to get more modern systems so that we don't waste so much energy. I would love to find a way, and we have people thinking about this for having less reliance on air conditioning. I'm told, and this is hearsay, if you will. I don't have a citation for this, but I'm told that about $1 out of $6 we spend on electricity is for electricity for our servers and keeping them cool. I don't know what the breakdown between that is, but if 16% is our servers, there's a chance as we move more servers into the new big building, that'll cut down some usage there. On the other hand, I'm told that the electricity for the new building is going to be a couple $1 million. So I don't know if that's going to be a net zero or not. I just don't know yet. One thing we're going to do is meter the building so that we can see the kind of usage, and maybe smart systems that turn things off when nobody's around, have timeable programs, and those kind of things. It's now a little inside joke because his name's Steve Meter, and I talk about metering the buildings. But I think we need to do absolutely everything we can, because in general, our cost per energy here is so much higher than anywhere else. It's roughly 3 times the price per kilowatt hour, because most of our 83%, I think, of our electricity is done by loading up a tanker of oil, steaming it across the Pacific one way or the other and burning it. So we really need to think about a multi-pronged solution. And it's not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight, but we have to do something about it. It's just too much money. Yes?
Branching off of that question, I know there were some things that were done in the residential housing. Like, for instance, they tried to do I believe the Kukui Cup Energy Saver competition. How successful was that? And is it possible to implement something like that throughout all student housing?
I don't. Francisco, do you want to?
In terms of the Kukui Cup, what we found was that the students changed their use while the competition was going on, but when the competition was over, their use went back up. We're continuing to look at ways to explore expanding that, but the first thing that we have to do is we have to meter all the buildings. And some of the older buildings, the metering process is a little more difficult and a little more complicated to give us an accurate reading of what students are doing, because there's shared circuitry or circuitry that we're not really sure how it was as built, and we have to figure that out. So there will be a Kukui Cup again this spring. We've been working with Philip Johnson to do that project and improve it.
Has solar ever been considered?
How many megawatt, how much solar do we have now?
Well, probably about, counting what's about to go on, Coconut Island, probably a total of about 0.6 megawatts. Yeah. So, and that's scattered in small systems across the campus and 300 kW to go on Coconut Island. But what's coming after with the PPA that you mentioned, the power purchasing agreement for photovoltaics, that'll bring 1 to 3 megawatts on the campus.
That's not how many total. How many total is Mekong campus?
Yeah, so we have just probably about 500, 600,000 watts. It went once kilowatts, once the Coconut Island system goes on. So that's 300, so it's probably 450, 500 kW on the campus, if we count Coconut Island too.
No, I mean, how much does the Mekong campus need total?
Oh, what is that supply against the demand? Right. You're absolutely right. If we covered every at our current demand, if we covered every rooftop, it would probably supply about 12% of Manoa's energy demand.
Which is how many megawatts?
Don't really remember right now. Peak or off peak? Wait, no. So it's 12% of the total. If you just convert it to dollars, of the money you were talking about before, you can do it that way too.
So it's a big problem, and the normal solutions, one solution isn't going to get us there. We need many different approaches. Conservation, really, I think the biggest gains are going to be trying to revamp the way we cool buildings. All you have to do is spend a little bit of time in the campus center. We have our board meetings there occasionally, and one of the regents came up to me about halfway through, and he was frozen to the bone. What I should have done is gotten Rainbow Teak over there to sell parkas, and we could have, I mean, the way we do that is kind of crazy. So until we can revamp a lot of our buildings and the HVAC systems and the way we do these things, we're going to be paying this bill for a long time, even if we chip away. I think we have had a significant reduction in usage, but we have to keep doing more and more in that area too. Tom.
Yeah, I actually have a question. There we go. So there's 2 new policies that are coming out this year. One is about coasting devices on campus, and the other is a ban on cigarette smoking. And I'm wondering what kind of enforcement strategy there's going to be for these policies.
I think shoot to kill. That's a joke. Stern looks. Go up and counsel. I think we should shun people who. This is kind of a cultural thing. We have policies. If people are being dangerous on a scooter of some sort, or they're smoking, what we want to do, and we as any people who work for the university see that, and students should feel free to go up and say, this is a smoke-free campus. How about respecting that policy? And some of our staff, actually, I have a good friend who smokes quite a bit, and he's going to have a real challenge. He's going to have to walk off campus. And my hope is we'll save his life. And maybe we will. Or we'll add 10 years to his life. Because eventually, he's going to quit probably because it's such a hassle. And that's our goal. And with the coasting devices, we just don't want somebody getting whacked. The actual enforcement, I mean, it's a matter of trying to make it a cultural norm. You have to make it uncool, and people just look at it and say, "Oh, what a jerk," and eventually people, hopefully, will fall into a cultural norm. But the hope is maybe we can save some lives.
I know you said earlier about a quarter of the tuition goes towards paying the electricity bill. I just want to know about how much goes towards just maintaining the buildings in their crumbling state now instead of.
Well, we have, it's interesting you bring that up because we have a big project right now that we're discussing. We have, get ready for this, $400 million of deferred maintenance as a university system, and over 300 million of that is on this campus. And so the question arises, how do we do all of these projects? $300 million is an enormous amount of money. The way people normally do this is you bond them. So what you do is you borrow the money from people who are willing to pay and buy bonds, and you service those bonds. Money is cheap today, so the service rate's about 5%. When all the user costs are in there or so on, it's more like 7%. So to bond $300 million worth of renovations that we need is going to cost us about 7% of that, or about $15 million. But note, that's $15 million for 30 years. So what our hope would be, of course, is that the state, the ledge, would say, we'll cover that. We'll spend 15 million of our resources for the next 30 years in this bond, in a 30-year bond, and you'll get $300 million out of that to do these renovations. Now, it would also take us years to do 300. You wouldn't want to be at a campus that was doing $300 million of renovation. You see we've had like 2 buildings being worked on campus, and it's tough as it is, you know, with the IT building and the campus center. So there's a certain pace we can do these kind of renovations at. So we're talking about kind of a long-term, we call this deferred maintenance. It's stuff that's been put off because we didn't have the money to do it. We're now engaging with the ledge to talk about how we might fund these kinds of things. We do fund some building from other resources, like many of you know, we have the best research center in the world for microbial engineering, Seymour Hallé. We actually funded that on revenue bonds from our research enterprise. So what we'd have to do, though, is find, if we had to fund these ourselves, we'd have to find $15 million for the next 30 years in order to do this bond, to do all the deferred maintenance. So what we have to do, and what we try to do, is we prioritize. So we have a prioritized list. Actually, Steve works on this, figure out how we can chip away at those things. At the same time, I'm sort of, in some ways, coming from the other side, too. I want, when you walk into a classroom, I want the walls to be painted, the furniture to be modern. So some of those kinds of things, the carpets, you know, taking moldy carpets out and those kind of little things, but they make a big difference in kind of the tenure of the classroom, if you will. So we've done a whole bunch of classrooms that hopefully you've seen in a lot of different buildings around campus, and we're continuing to chip away at that to make your learning experience better, have better technology in the classroom. But these big building projects are going to require us borrowing money and getting a bond. We hope we get what's called a GO bond, which is a general obligation of the ledge, of the state, to help with these things. Did I answer? Yes.
You just talked about the priority list for facilities. What is priority on that list? What is on the top, and the list goes down?
Well, I probably can't rattle it off the top of my head. I'll tell you one of the biggest ones. Some of these are kind of hidden. It's not like it's a building. Steve's got to put a different electrical system in some of our buildings here that are drawing too much current. They've been built up. A lot of these are research buildings, and we put so much instrumentation in them now and things, and servers. They're drawing so much electricity that the current units can't handle it. So electrical upgrades, HVAC, and trying to get better systems there. So a lot of, you might, if you're in theater, you call it back of the house stuff. But this building's a big one. We want a new classroom building over in the College of Ed area, and bulldoze some of those really decrepit shacks over there that really should have been bulldozed, and 1965. You know, some of those kind of things. But you know, you see what we're doing over in Snyder. That's a project that's really long overdue and exciting, trying to make it look more like its neighbor Edmondson. You see, we did Webster. We have Gartley going now, and so there's a lot of good renovation going on, and more to come. This is going to be constant. And I apologize to that aspect because you're always going to see cranes. You're going to see cranes throughout the time you're here. We just have to do it, though. It's a beautiful campus, but it's an old campus. And some of the things have just been neglected for a long time. So, Steve? Sure.
Just to add and bring a few points together. So to your point, there's a commitment now, a perennial commitment from the campus to commit $1 million a year in what we call the capital renewal and deferred maintenance money to the improvement of classrooms. So if you look there, over the both spring break and summer break, there were 22 classrooms facelifted or renovated with new instructional equipment, new floors, new walls, new whiteboards, and new furniture. So this is an ongoing commitment of $1 million a year that's dedicated to improving classrooms. Now, what the Chancellor is talking about, and to go to your point, is what is the priority list? So we're in the condition we are with when you look at paint killing and everything, because we are the, of the whole UH system, this campus is the main campus. We are kind of the driver, and we have, of all of the assets in the UH system, 2/3 of those assets exist on this campus. This is a 107-year-old campus, and we've got an old infrastructure, and we've got aging buildings. And historically, what's happened is that there's been a disconnection between what we call capital improvement money and operation and maintenance money. So when projects have come online, we've been glad to get them, but we have not allocated at a state level the support for the operation and ongoing maintenance. So when it's like your car. If you've got a car that you need to change the filters or something, you know, every once in a while, and you don't do that, what happens later is then it becomes less efficient to operate the car. It's trying to suck that air through a dirty filter, and so it's going to cost more. It's going to slow up, then the air conditioning system is going to break. When we get to that point, it hasn't. So we've got a life expectancy of a system, whether it's a roofing system or a chiller system, or even the building envelope with the paint and the windows and the sealants on those. You can say that's a 20-year capital renewal. So at the end of 20 years, we expect that will outlive the repairs and the maintenance that's been done on it. We have to renew that piece of equipment or that wall or whatever it might be. Now, if that's not done, say it was supposed to be done in 2000, and it wasn't done in 2000, that goes into our backlog, and that adds up. So that's when the Chancellor's talking about hundreds of $millions in backlog, that's what that adds up to. So what we do now is look at a building like Kuykendall, and there's a figure for this. We have a figure for every system and every piece of equipment, not every piece of equipment, but every large building subsystem, and understand the condition of those, and when they exist currently in a backlog, and when they are over the next 10 years need to be renewed. And we look at the most urgently needed repairs and upgrades in our facilities. And then from there, we start to identify that strictly from a facilities point of view. And we have a figure for what that costs to do that. But then the qualitative component of it is to go back and meet our mission as an institution. So what does that particular building that we're looking at as an upgrade, what does that mean to our academic mission, our research mission, our student life mission? And how do we, when we begin to plan and address these things, how do we understand how that mission converges with the renovation of that building? So that's a project like this is really not simply just repairing the lighting or repainting it or putting a new roof on. It's really looking at how we do all that holistically, and then how we then combine that with taking the function of this facility, the programmatic function, what it means as a teaching unit, or some of them as a researching facility, and how we bring it from 1975, 1985 to 2025. And start to look at this and say, this is the campus of the 21st century. These are the methods and the spaces that our students need to experience an educational environment for the 21st century, research for the 21st century, or student life, or athletics. So this is the way the campus is planning this now. And there's one other thing, one other point I want to make in that. When looking at both the condition of the facility and how it merges with our academic research student life needs, we're also understanding what the energy profiles are in those buildings. So if this building, anyone, you know, if those are inefficiently operating, and we can look at that and say, okay, they may be high on the repair index, higher on the energy, sucking energy index, and higher, and maybe even higher on what we can do as far as elevating the experience through our mission by improving. Those things go together and we weigh these decisions both quantitatively and qualitatively, and that's how we come to what's going to be next. Yeah, and it isn't, I mean, these are processes that have been in place just for a few years, and you can start to see them come to fruition. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Sorry. As state funding has decreased over the years, what has been the biggest degradation to the UH system in your eyes?
Probably, well, I'll start by saying the biggest impact is actually on your wallet. Because we've lost $75 million in G funds at Manoa since 2009, and there's a concomitant increase in tuition. So basically, the cost of running the university has been shifting. This coming year will be just about 50-50 in terms of money from the ledge for operations, money from the ledge and money from tuition overall. And then the money from the federal government, assuming it opens again, matches the sum of those two roughly. Because we're about an $800 million I'm rounding off here, about an $800 million operation, 200, a little less than 200 from the state, a little less than 200 in tuition, a little less than 400 in research dollars from external sources. What has happened though, and Steve maybe didn't mention this, the other reason that we slip a little bit in our building repair is that we haven't been able to hire enough staff for facilities and grounds. We had a consultant come in, and I think given the size of our physical plant and what we do, they looked at how many people we had, and I'm maybe off here a little bit, but they said we were 90 people short, something like that. And yeah, so the other thing is that we've got people really working hard to keep and I think they do a great job. I think our, you look at our electrical, our plumbing, our janitorial, the grounds crew, they all do a really good job, but they're really underpowered. And so the waiting list gets long. We get somebody will phone in a complaint, my sink is leaking here, and sometimes we don't get to it for a week. And they come in the next day and it's still leaking, and the next day it's still leaking. But it's a matter of everybody's deployed on something else. We have I think a better system of prioritizing now than we did. We're going to a new method of zone management. So if there's particular parts of campus that has its own crew, and it kind of makes it more local. They're more responsive because they're there. They walk the buildings and see what's going on. But when you come right down to it, we're 90 people short. We're asking again at the ledge for some relief on that. And I'm hoping we won't get 90, no way, but we're hoping we can get a pretty sizable fraction of that so we can have more people that we can dispense when we need to fix stuff.
Thanks for coming out, by the way, tonight. My name is Felix. I consider myself a professional student. I'm a second bachelor degree for computer engineering. First off, I'd like to say that I've noticed a lot of improvements in campus since I've started here in 03 as far as academic services. I've seen an increase in programs being offered to new students as far as helping with registration, understanding the guidelines to getting to graduation on time. I've noticed different workshops being offered. For instance, last week we had a resume writing workshop. Tonight we actually have an interview workshop for students as well. Question I want to ask as far as going towards those services as well, is there anything that's currently in process that I don't know of, or something that's possibly coming later that might help students learn more about forming study groups. I guess an example would be students getting together within their classes and forming effective study groups, like teaching them proper sizes, times to get together during the week, organizing schedules and whatnot.
First of all, it's a great idea, and I don't know the answer. Do we have a microphone?
My name is Kyle Van Duzer. I'm the Director of First Year Programs here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And a program like that is already in existence. It's called the Access to College Excellence Learning Communities. And what these are is groups of students, 15 or less, who share the same common core classes. And they go around from class to class, all semester long. Sorry, a little food in my throat. But they have, there's a CAS 110, which is an integrating seminar led by an undergraduate peer mentor who actually goes over what you're talking about and goes over time management, money management, goal setting. Fortunately, Richard, the ASUH president, is a student mentor, and they do form informal study groups as well as formalized study groups. Right now, we have roughly, I want to say, we offer 41 learning communities, and this is for incoming first-year students. And roughly in size, we're between 350 to 400 students.
That's a really great idea for any course. It'd be neat to have something on the course website to allow those kind of interactions to happen.
Going from my first degree in communicology, Richard knows a little bit about that. Very well-rounded department where the students are very open, talkative, and whatnot. We were very easily to form study groups, but then going into engineering, I don't want to make it sound like they're antisocial. They're just possibly lacking in social skills. It's a little harder to form study groups in there. And from what I've been hearing from my fellow engineering students is that they desire for some sort of program that'll help them, I guess, where you put in availability and it'll spit out students who are sharing your same class load and you can form study groups based upon that, as opposed to just sending out mass emails to your entire class saying, hey, we have a quiz next week or an exam next week, and allow them to form something more steady and more.
Yeah. Well, I see our associate dean in the back for engineering, so.
Love the program, by the way.
I think there tends to be a lot more social interaction at the undergraduate level than at the graduate level. So we have receptions for the students that are organized by the student clubs probably once a month. So not all engineers are as introverted as you might think.
Well, you're allowed to say that, though. You're studying computer engineering, so I can make fun of chemists, and so that's sort of a standing rule.
I'd just like to add to that a little bit. If you have ideas like that, you can always contact the GSO or the ASUH, whichever, if you're a grad student or undergrad, and we get all kinds of emails like that. So if you have these ideas, we can certainly forward them on to the appropriate people too. So don't be afraid to use the student government as a resource. All right, yeah. Contact ASUH.
Boy, am I glad about 3 or 4 of you came tonight.
Are there any plans or future plans to encourage more commuter student life and community life here at UH Manoa? Like, for example, just getting more people to come out to this.
Well, so that's a great question. I would like, first of all, if I had a magic wand, I'd double our residence capacity. I think this year we had requests for 5,100 beds, and we have 3,800. So I wish we had a lot more students living on campus, which would make the commute for everyone a lot easier. Getting in here in the morning is not easy. I'd like to see this be a more bike-friendly place so that people could ride in easier. I think most people live fairly close, within a couple miles to campus, and if biking were an alternative, that'd be great. The parking is always the biggest issue, and it's not just for students, but faculty and staff. Everybody Nobody likes the parking situation, and it's the kind of thing that it's hard for us to do much about. We can't really build more parking. In fact, the pressure as we look at our landscape and things is to take parking away. And in this day of trying to be more green, you know, the hope is more people are using other modes of transportation. We've tried things like the We Car and those kind of things, but ultimately, we need to have a more bike-friendly area. I think that's really critical. We have a great bus system. The bus here in Honolulu, I think, is really good. And we also supplement it, I think, really well with our Rainbow Shuttle. But trying to keep those things and optimize those and keep investing in those ways of people getting around. I would love to have more of the, and this may be the root of your question, is people who do commute to campus staying here and having a more vibrant campus at night. I don't think anything will have a bigger impact on that than the new campus center. I think that's really going to enliven the campus. And I think also some of the ideas we have on the campus master plan and better lighting and things. I'd like to see us open up certain areas, like we have this the beautiful amphitheater over there that's locked and never used. And I just don't understand that, you know. So it'd be neat to have, you know, that, tear down that fence and have that open for use. And as the campus gets better lighting and feels safer to everybody, more, you know, the best thing for campus safety is more people on campus. And we get good lighted walkways, and there's some natural paths. In addition to the mall, you have what's the Legacy Walk, and then down to Sinclair and things. You have some natural pathways that we could have be well lit, and you know, Francisco had the great idea of bringing food trucks here in the evenings. So hey, you know, you can go out and, I know Francisco's favorite was always Momo Burgers. We had Momo Burger jokes last year, but those guys, I think the campus center is going to be huge, and you know, making sure the libraries and things like that are good places for meeting, having a lot of, you know, those kind of places for people to do things, having more events, more theater, more music, those kind of things, lectures.
On that note, I actually had a friend talk to me about like more. Of course, we have to use our budget well for like much more, I guess, higher priorities. But he was not really complaining, but he was talking about like the recreational use. He just transferred from a different school, so he didn't see the games room before. But from there, I think he was just concerned about having a more recreational area for all the students. And I think, in my opinion, that would be really good. That would probably really emphasize or the push for the students to stay here for an event and to feel comfortable there.
Absolutely. I think that's part of the plans for the phase, there's 3 phases of the campus center renovation, right? And I think that's part of it. But I agree. And it'd be nice to have more of those all around in the dormitory areas and things.
Thank you.
For sure.
Contrary to popular belief, the Andrews Amphitheater is open every day. Alberta, do your folks open that up, or is it? Okay, facilities opens that up. It's open every day. The Eva gate is open from like 8 till 3 o'clock every day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So people should enjoy it. It's a wonderful facility.
You mentioned your passion for making it a more bike-friendly campus, and I think I've heard you say this in the past, and I think I asked you the same question, but I guess it's been a few months, so what's the current status on, I know that there's a part of the campus master plan, I think, of making it more bike-friendly, but I also heard about a possible bike share program that you guys would do in partnership with the city and county, so I was wondering like what the timeline would be for that, or what and when we can expect something to roll out, if at all?
Yeah, I'm a real fan of that plan, but I have to admit, I don't know who's carrying that football.
Oh, okay.
Steve, is that you again? So, it's good you're here tonight. Thanks.
DeRay, we can talk anytime. Yeah, there is a lot in motion in the going into design on that. So the Chancellor mentioned a minute ago the improvements that are going through out of the landscape master plan, right? And that will include bike lanes and so on. So so what's happening right now is there's a going into the design phase for, let's start with Varney Circle, right? And let's put Varney Circle as the hub. So the fountain will be running in the next year or two, okay? So it will be running. So you've started Varney Circle, and you go from there down Campus Road to University Avenue at Metcalf. So that area, the Campus Road area, will be newly developed. Some of the, and there will be a new entryway at Metcalf and University Avenue. So if you notice now, there are 2 do not enter signs at one of our main interfaces of the campus. So in the next couple of years, that will be renovated. It will be a very welcoming entry to the campus. One of the things that, let me just go on to the rest of this. So from Varney Circle to University Avenue. So from Varney Circle to Dole Street to the parking area, we're going to have, so that will also be along Legacy Mall, that will all be developed also. Varney Circle to east-west along McCarthy Mall. So the planters and all will be renewed there. So what happens with something like this? These are our main civic areas. And out of the landscape master plan, these are identified as that. So what's important about this now is this is the first stake in the ground for identifying various vocabularies for bike paths, widths, paving types, bike, pedestrian, skateboard, ADA, service vehicle. Now all this has to go in the landscape master plan is a conceptual plan. This now takes it from concept right through to construction documents. So all the design phases will go. One of the aspects of this that's important is that from the very first master plan for this campus was the 1966 Warnicki plan. And there's been several long-range development plans from there. Every one of those has indicated that the desire for this campus is for it to be not a vehicle-driven, but a pedestrian-driven experience. And every year we've added more cars, more parking stalls and everything. And this is because we add more people and we want people to be able to get to where they need to go. But, so the landscape master plan now is looking at the cars around Varney Circle, the cars down Legacy Mall, and the cars that will reappear when the construction barriers are taken away from Campus Center. And there's like 24 slots there. And so in these critical spots, one of the other aspects of this design undertaking is one of the first things is to do a viability study for not the removal, the relocation of those cars. And we're looking at one tier level small parking areas behind QLC and Spalding, back there along East-West Road. So that'll be that before anything gets designed, we have to know what's going to go there if the cars can be relocated to another site. The value that would have to really this green axis from University Avenue to East-West Road and from up Farrington to Miley, all the way down to Dole Street, all the way down to the parking complex, and have this be for skateboards and bicycles and moving with Aloha. This is really going to be, I think, what we see in the next 3 to 5 years is beautiful. Now, one of the things that takes a little bit longer in an enterprise like this is that how often do you get to resurface the streets, right? Once in every other generation, every 2 generations. So, as we mentioned a minute ago, this is an aging infrastructure on this campus. A large part of that deferred maintenance, millions, tens of millions of dollars, is in the invisible infrastructure. So, as we sight down from Varney Circle to University Avenue, and we look at this and we say, we know when Gartley came on, we had to do new transformers. Instead of taking it piece by piece by piece, in this process, we'll investigate what it means to look at the infrastructure opportunities of consolidating rather than chop suey all over the place, consolidating the infrastructure network under these places that we're renovating, digging up first, and getting that in there for we've got sewer, drainage, water, electrical, data, gas lines, all this to go through there. So these are, if we, thinking about just paving something is fine, but now we've got these larger and the deferred maintenance issues in our infrastructure. So all these things come together. So the design, that's going into design phase now. Construction for 3 pieces of that will probably start in the next 2 years.
But let me add that I'm going to put a stake in the ground now, and you can bug me. Richard can bug me at every ASUH meeting every month. We're going to have a bike share by next September. Yeah.
Oh, we actually agree with the city to do 1 or 2 bike shares on the day, out of the bike share program.
And the city ain't having also doing one
I think they've got at least 10 planned for us. Oh, it would be nice if we got one down at Fox Aqua. I mean, Waverly Hills, right? So there's another station down there. That would be good. You guys can allow me to do that. But we're looking at 1 or 2 on the campus.
No.
Maybe I can make it happen.
But we'll have it.
Support the Chancellor.
Sir.
Chancellor Apple, glad we're doing this conversation. I know I suggested we should do this last year when you came to our event. So for everybody, my name is Kurt, and I started a Entrepreneurs Club last year called Hawaii Student Entrepreneurs. So we have about 50 members interested in entrepreneurship, and this year we actually have 11 students that have started their own business and run it while they're still in school. It's mostly small businesses though, like photography, t-shirts, jewelry businesses, but my question to you is, some of the members are interested in, I don't know, learning about the UH technology. Like, is there some kind of like tour where we could check out all the technology and maybe get involved, and maybe we can be the champions or something, or be involved in commercializing those products?
Well, your timing is actually perfect. We are now in the process of working with a fellow by the name of Carl Fuchs. You might know Carl. And we're actually looking now at a research accelerator. And what we're going to do is here at UH,
Oh, wow.
we're going to take student and faculty projects, and they will be able to submit proposals. And we're looking at, this is a 1-to-1 match between Carl's funds and our own research dollars. Doing a 1-to-1 match up to about $500,000 a year. We're going to have a 3-phase process. First phase will be roughly 10, let's say $50,000 grants for people to take their intellectual property to a higher level and develop it a little more. It's more or less a proof of concept center. Mm-hmm. After that first year, we're going to cull that herd in year 2 funding, maybe take a third of those to a more, and the idea is to get them to the point that they're ready for VC. We'll have sort of a angel round, and by the way, some of the colleges will be invited if they want to invest in their own IP. They can use some of their RTRF kind of in an angel round. And we do have a $6 million fund run by our foundation called the Upside Fund. And we may call this the Upside Accelerator, but we're just starting to build that infrastructure to try to grow our intellectual property and then down the road, people will have bought into equity stakes in those, or if we go to license, then I'm going to try to get my money back, because I'm doing the original funding. So if we have a good outcome, we either get a startup and we have equity, or we go to license and then try to recoup that to keep the accelerator going. So there's huge opportunities for students to plug into all aspects of that. We want to work closely with PACE and your student group. It's a great opportunity, and I think we're going live with that very soon.
Thank you.
So. Yes.
So this,
Only half the people can leave, so we've locked those doors.
This may be a little naive because I'm not sure the background or whatever, but as far as Sodexo entanglements goes and food vendors here on campus, what would it take to see more of a local presence and local or small business in the more permanent establishments? Because I appreciate the food trucks and like what I do see, but it's like the Panda Express and the Pizza Hut that concerns me, or the Domino's, I'm sorry, or the Starbucks that I'm sure everyone's so stoked on, but for me it was like a heart crusher. It was like something else could have gone there. And I just wanted to know what the viability of that would be.
I know we've had some local vendors who set up shop on campus here. We used to have BC Burrito, which I think is a local one, under Saunders. Are they still there? And so I think there's those, well, L&L sort of local, and I think aren't they up at Paradise Markets? I don't have a whole lot of knowledge in this area, so your question's not naive, but my answer would be, yeah, so rather than having the mega chains, get some local, that sounds like a great idea to me. I don't have any knowledge of what our contracting is and how it's done and how long the current ones have been with us and when they run out and what we might do in terms of a bidding process. But I will talk to Kathy Cutshaw about that. That's a great idea. It actually would, I mean, one of the problems we have, I think, at Manoa that's really true is that we don't have as good a connection to the local community as we should in a lot of ways. And that would be great to see local restaurateurs have an opportunity to set up shop on campus. And as we're doing all these changes and with the campus center opening, it's a great opportunity to talk about these. So it's a great idea.
Thank you.
There's a couple of restaurants I can think I'd love to have here too. Side Street Cafe. Richard?
We did receive a few undergrad and graduate student questions / comments. So if there's no more, we can also read them and then have a conversation about that here.
Okay.
If you like, okay. So we'll start with undergrads. This one's just a comment and just for you to know. They mentioned, and this is all anonymous right now, thank you so much for making UH Manoa tobacco free. It's about time and we are so happy, but this is an individual speaking. The next one is another student comment relating to parking. So there were quite a few about parking. So they mentioned upper campus parking. Those of us who live in Hale Kahavai and Hale La Lima are having problems with parking. It is very inconsiderate to us students who live on upper campus to park in lower campus. Lower campus students are accommodated with a place to park their cars where they live. The students who live on upper campus have to find other options. This is very unfair. Upper campus students pay $142 to park in the structure on lower campus just to walk to the top of East-West Road. Upper campus parking should be made available to both students and employees in parking zone 4. I walked through parking zone 4, which is located right below Hale La Lima, and the lot is never filled. Students that live in upper campus dorms should have access to those empty spots. So not sure if you want to comment on that or.
Well, what I'd like to do is I'll give that question to Kathy Cutshaw and maybe Mike, you want to think about it as well. Maybe we can get together and figure out a good solution. If there really are empty spots perennially near some of the other dormitories, maybe there's an opportunity here. So.
The first graduate student question is, it says, I'm a full-time graduate student, but through a specific outreach college program. Because of this, we are not apparently eligible for many of the benefits offered to regular students, despite paying very high tuition rates. Staff from the graduate student office and even our program don't seem clear on whether we can get bus pass through UHM, how we may be able to have access to the fitness facilities, even if it means paying yet another fee. Can you please address this? We understand that different programs pay different fees, but it is hard to be on the student side of things and feel we are paying exceptional high tuition because our program is through outreach, but we can't benefit from all the services and facilities made available to other students.
So I do happen to know that there's a group working on that very question. I don't think we have an answer yet, but people are aware of that problem. And you know, the thing is, you pay a fee to get some of those services, and these students don't pay a fee. Yes, they do pay tuition, and I guess at outreach, it's probably, maybe it is a little higher than normal too. So understood. I think it's a problem we can solve. I think there's a good middle ground, and I know there's a group working on it.
What fees do they pay?
You're eclipsing my knowledge, but I know that particular problem is being worked on, but I don't know what the numbers. I don't know if you happen to have them, Francisco, off the top of your head.
Outreach College students pay a fee directly to Outreach College. That fee is for their administrative services, and then they also pay then the colleges, and the colleges pay the instructors for the courses. The only fee that goes to the area of student services is that for the summer, Outreach College provides funds to the COCUA program to address the issues related to students with disabilities. But Outreach College students otherwise don't pay any of the fees that are paid through and charged through Banner for all of the students who pay tuition, like the bus pass and other student fees. The Chancellor did mention that's an issue we have to work on, especially as Outreach College creates more full-time programs. The original design was for part-time people taking courses that are not within the regular campus, but now that we have full-time programs, full-time on the campus, we need to figure out a way how they're going to be a part of some of the student activities, both co-curricular and extracurricular.
This next one kind of relates to what we talked about. It's a student comment / question. So 2 points. First, the UH campus and surrounding community needs functional bike lanes. Many students are afraid to ride their bikes because the commute would be unsafe for travel by bicycle. Creating safe and friendly biking routes would help to alleviate traffic in the area, congestion of nearby communities, and promote health and independence of our students. 50% of UH Manoa students live within a 3-mile radius of campus, but we still have an overcrowded parking structure and maxed out street parking. Second, we offer unnecessary campus shuttles when students already have the option of riding the city bus. Why is this service provided when we can already take the bus, which is more predictable and cost-effective for the university?
Well, I'll put a plug in for the shuttles, and I think quite a few people will too. I think shuttle use is pretty high, and it's pretty convenient. We do have a great bus system, but there are places you can't get to in the bus without lots of transfers, just because of the way the lines are structured. So I think the shuttle's worthwhile, and it also helps a lot in off hours for people to get around campus safely. So we can always optimize, and we need to continue to look at usage and where the best spots are to be for the shuttle, but I think the shuttle's a real valuable service. I agree on the bike lanes. I do know Waialae, the city has that in their plans to put a nice bike lane there, which will be a big plus. But yeah, I hope we continue. We of course need the city to do most of the heavy lifting there. We can make our campus bike friendly, but then we need help from the mayor.
The next graduate student question is, do you have any plans for increasing the number of GA ships available to graduate students at UH? In my department, GA ships are highly competitive, and only about 5 to 10% of students are lucky enough to receive one. However, now that I have worked myself as a GA for the past 2 semesters, I see that classes are often overloaded with students, and we could really use more GAs to help relieve crowded classrooms and the huge amount of grading work GAs must do for the classes they teach. This is especially true for writing classes in the English Language Institute and the UH Writing Center. I know that efforts are being made to raise the pay scale of current GAs, but I'd prefer that those efforts were put more towards providing a larger number of GA-ships so that struggling and graduate students can get the work experience and funding they need to make their studies successful.
Yeah, that's a complicated question, actually, because there are competing forces at work. We did have some graduate program. We have to think about what the right size of a graduate program is. I'm a former grad dean, and I had 5 things that I said every good graduate program should do. It should have very high admission standards. Early on in a graduate program, students should be tested rigorously to make sure they're motivated to get through the program. We need to fund students well, and that was why we raised the minimum stipend. They need to get good mentoring, and they need help in finding a career, a job. And I believe that the state we were at a year ago was that some programs sized their graduate program based upon the sections they needed covered in teaching. And that's not a student-centric model. We need a graduate student-centric model which says, this is how many students we can mentor, this is how many students we can afford to pay well for the duration of their PhD, for example, if they're PhD students, while they're in good standing. And this is the number in the field that we're in that have a reasonable chance of getting the type of career that they want. So, for example, we have nationally a tremendous overproduction in certain fields. It's well known, it's talked about at the MLA meeting and things like that. We have a lot of people who struggle for 10 years to get a PhD. First of all, it shouldn't take 10 years, but they have to subsist by serving us our dinners and things like that instead of focusing on their dissertation. And so that takes them 10 years to get a degree. Then they go out looking for an academic position. They apply for a position. I think we had a position here recently in the humanities. They told me they had 150 applications for. So, you know, people spend all that time, do all that hard work over a decade, go out, and then there's no job for them. So, to me, in graduate work, we always have to be thinking about the graduate student first. It can't be that we have a curriculum. We have to design our undergraduate curricula so that they're what we can teach with our faculty. And we do have a very favorable student-to-faculty ratio here. That's one of the strongest aspects of this school. We have a student-to-faculty ratio, depending on how you count. You can count a lot of ways. You can count full-time faculty, full-time students, FTE faculty, FTE students, tenure-track faculty, but we're somewhere between 11 and 13 to 1. And that's the envy of any public university in the country. Berkeley, Michigan, Virginia, UNC Chapel Hill, the great public universities are all in the 15, 16, 17, some of them 18 to 1. So we have the faculty to have a robust curriculum, and that gives us the opportunity, I think, to design our graduate programs for maximum graduate student success. I'd rather see 3 graduate students in a department getting good mentoring and $17,500 a year than 4 students getting 13. Costs the same, but we do a better job with those 3, and they have a chance of actually living here and being able to work on their dissertation rather than taking a second job. So I guess I don't want to increase necessarily the number of GA ships. It will depend, and it could depend. There may be certain fields where we can have more. And the other thing that we're going to be doing this year, and it's fairly profound, is we're going to change budgeting, how budgeting is done to units. There's going to be movement of tuition dollars following the student more closely. Student semester hours and degrees granted are going to matter. And so if there is a huge student demand in a certain area and there's a lot of sections, that college can expect to get more resources going forward.
Hello. Okay. The next question is, unfortunately, I am unable to attend this forum, but offer my thanks to the floor for permitting an open discussion for student issues. I believe this is an invaluable opportunity for students to question their leadership about decisions that affect their matriculation. I am a non-traditional student attending UH Manoa and have just recently been introduced to the traffic nightmare on Oahu. I commute from Kapolei every morning and it is pure hell, to say the least. As the state's premier public institution of higher learning, what was the university's involvement with the proposed location of future rail stations? Is the window still open to lobby for a rail stop on campus? Also, has UH considered offering live feed classes to locations outside of Manoa to service West Side students? West Oahu has a limited number of degree programs that limit those on the West Side.
We were not involved in the siting of the rail. We are being involved now in that some of the rail stops will be at UH campus locations. The only way Manoa is interacted is we have an urban garden center that's part of CTAR, part of the College of Agriculture, Tropical Agriculture, that will have a rail stop. Some are at Leeward, so there's a number of you, but we were more brought in, and we want to cooperate very much with the city and county and Hart who are building it, but it wasn't our decision and we didn't have any say in that. I think we all hope that the current plans have it stopping at Ala Moana Center, and while there's a very strong bus hub there, quite a few buses do come to Manoa from that area. We'd hope eventually to have a rail stop here. I'm told one of the big problems is going from Ala Moana Center to Manoa crosses some pretty big arteries, Kapiolani Boulevard, King, Baratania, and probably need a tunnel, and the costs get pretty bad. So I wouldn't hold my breath that that's going to happen. But there are good bus systems out of Ala Moana. In terms of our outreach and online, we have about 730 courses that are online. I do think that we should think more, I haven't socialized this a whole lot, but I think we should think more about taking Manoa on the road. So there is a West Oahu campus. It would be interesting to see if some of our faculty want to teach there, especially if they live out there. And allow, we also have a very strong military presence out by Hickam and Pearl Harbor and things like that. Do we want to offer some off-site courses out there for them, be a little bit more friendly to folks who are on that side of the island? I think or even rent some space out there as a teaching hub. I think there's opportunities there, and I'd like to start that conversation. I haven't really discussed that much with anybody yet, but I think there's opportunities.
To follow up on that, something like this came up at our GSO meeting. There was people who do research here and also down at JABSOM. There's no way of getting from here to JABSOM. There's no shuttle, to my understanding, from here to there. So would it be possible to add a shuttle from here to Ala Moana to JABSOM and then back? Because that seems to make a lot of sense, and then when the rail comes in, we'd be able to get students on the rail.
I agree, and I think, I'll have to check on this. I think we're going to do a Kaka'ako shuttle, because that's come up before in our campus conversations. Now, it might not be very often, but there might be some critical times. I know that that's been discussed, and I know there's a committee looking at that potential. And the idea of swinging by Ala Moana is a really good one when we think that the rail's going to be there. And actually, that's a good one to have anyway, and it's on the way. So it's a very good idea.
Okay, I have one more grad student question. With all the technology and devices we have access to this day in our technological age, and more importantly, that we use for our research and for our teaching, it seems prehistoric to have to connect to the internet via cables in dormitories, offices, and around campus. When can we expect that you make it so that internet access is available campus-wide, including in student dormitories, East-West Center, TA, GA, and RA offices?
Okay, first of all, we don't own the East-West Center. So that's a partner of ours, but the East-West Center is part of the State Department. So I can't speak for them. I think we're close to being wireless almost everywhere on campus. But of course, if you can plug in, it's a lot faster. A direct cable connection is always quicker than wireless, but at least I think it is. But I think we're close to that already. I'm not positive, but anybody help me out here? Fully wireless? Okay, great. Thank you. I thought so. I thought we were pretty close.
Okay, another one that has to do with sustainability. So how is the sustainability policy from October 2012 being addressed? Can you commit to green purchasing policies? Since about 1/5 of our tuition dollars go into paying for electricity, can you commit to hiring consultants to implement energy efficiency in our 200+ buildings?
Well, I'll start by saying we have a lot of in-house expertise. So we've been approached by some consultants. And in fact, I think we've used some too. But we have a lot of expertise. And in the area of sustainability, I think that's one place where we have so much campus interest and so many volunteers that I think things are going to happen. And then many of them can happen, except those that cost a lot of money. And if we get any luck at the ledge this spring, a lot of those others will happen. We had to, unfortunately, throw some things overboard. But things like green purchasing, things like new recycling, we got rid of all the styrofoam that we could. I think we're almost 100%. I think there might be still one vendor who we have to work on. But so we've been doing a lot. The curriculum, I know, is being worked on very hard. So there's a lot of really good things going on. It's going to be a continuous process, though, too. And there are some things that are going to cost money. And they're very high on my priority list. I was not happy we had to throw them overboard, and there'll be some of the first things we pull back on deck when we get some money.
And there's one more regarding sustainability. So 2 points regarding sustainability. First, why do the printers in the library computer labs only print on one side? This is very wasteful and certainly not a sustainable way to run the university. Students print thousands of pages every semester. Cutting this number in half not only saves paper, it also saves oil and carbon emissions in transport and water and chemicals used in processing the paper, not to mention all the energy that goes into farming the wood in the first place. Second, recycling bins seem to be far too rare around campus. I often see all sorts of recyclable materials in the trash bins. I believe additional recycling bins could reduce this problem.
I agree to both points. So, and we'll see about getting those two-sided printers in the library. Money. We'll work on it. Our Dean of Libraries is here. So we have a live question here. So Tom, could you run your mic?
Oh, I had a follow-up to that. Who's in charge of the recycling? Who actually takes the recyclables?
That's facilities and facilities and grounds, and Roxanne Adams does that. And some of that is tied with the industry costs. I don't know all the details about it, but yeah, more recycling and more, I think, institutionalized policy on recycling would be very good. While I have the floor, if I could. So on the issue of energy in the buildings, and yeah, this is a big deal. You got roughly 25% of every dollar paid for tuition goes to the energy bills, right? But this is, there, as the Chancellor said, there's a lot of in-house expertise. The renovation at Moore in the last 2 years reduced Moore Hall's energy consumption by 49%. And in the infrastructure, there is cooling loops that improve the efficiency for air conditioning a lot. But here's the bottom line. I just want to put this on the table. The bottom line about energy costs for students in this state is really linked to the commodity of oil. I mean, almost 90% of the electricity generated in, through HECO on Oahu is from fossil fuel. Like 84% of that is oil, another 6 or, my numbers might be rusty, but somewhere between 10% coal up to 80% oil. And this is, and if we've got, oil prices are not going down. And we're at about $104 a barrel now. If we go, you know, Syria gets crazy, you're going to be at $200 a barrel. These prices we're paying for electricity right now are nothing compared to what it could be. You know, I think it would be really enlightened if we looked beyond just what the plug's doing, which is critical, but looked at the primary fuel source that we're coupled to in Hawaii, and that is where the tuition dollars are snagged. They're snagged on oil. So if that's something to think about. That's something to think about.
Tom, would you run your? Yeah.
You referred to having luck at the ledge, you know, for funding. Are you just leaving it down to luck, or how are you pushing your agenda down at the legislature?
No,
who are you talking to?
We have a plan. We do have a plan.
Could you outline your plan for us, or?
Well, a lot of it's going individually, one-on-one conversations with key people, but we have a whole funding plan in mind and what we'll do with their dollars. And I honestly don't think that the ledge is against us, and the reason they took our money was that they don't feel good about us. I think the problem is that the state is faced with so many other priorities too that are new, and so I think we have a good chance. I'm really optimistic. We're making the connections, we're talking to the people. We routinely bring a lot of our legislators here on campus to see what we're doing. So it's you know, we're in a full court press and a lot of dialogue with a lot of the key committee leaders and things like that. So I assure you nothing is left to chance.
And just a follow-up question, are you starting that plan now, or, I mean,
it's
the
been in the
session's
works.
out right now, so, I mean, when did you start this plan?
It's continual. It's continual. Our work with the ledge is really constantly ongoing. So I probably meet with a couple legislators a week. But you can all do your part too. You know, that's another thing, and Richard and I and Tom, we've been talking about how students are great advocates. Legislators listen to students very much, so you know, your efforts are important too. We're talking about how to coordinate our efforts, but that's an important aspect as well.
Okay, there's one more question. Okay. So this is another student question. I know for a fact that a good 1/3 of those students who commute to Manoa do not come to school due to parking. It takes nearly an hour to find parking in communities surrounding UH Manoa and another to walk to school. The shuttles do help, but why is it UH Manoa has so much land, not enough parking, and for the paid parking, which is claimed to be taken up slots or entry at night, costs so much? It is not welcoming and rather makes me feel, I'm sure many other students feel unwanted and truly feel as if this university is trying to nickel and dime us for all we got, rather than make us feel we are entering an environment that wishes to help us become great citizens in the world and contributors to our economy. Especially that most commuters are our local children of Hawaii. I even considered spend that $16 a day for my parking, because I did not receive a parking pass, and yet I cannot even find visitor parking. Why is this such a problem, and why is parking so expensive?
Well, again, the parking situation's a rough one. It's not, we don't really have the ability to build more parking garages, at least not now. So I think it really means going forward trying to be greener and trying to find ways for public transportation to do a better job, and for people who use public transportation to have some other type of movement locally, whether it's a bike share or the e-cars or things like that. I don't see us having the capacity to, build more parking garages. And we certainly can't afford flat parking spaces. In fact, I see them going away at least a little bit in time. So I think we need to look greener. I'd like the campus to be more open and friendly. We lose money on parking. I don't know quite how that works out, but I've been told by our parking folks that the fees we charge still have us losing money. I guess upkeep of various parts of the parking are the reason. I don't know. But I guarantee next time we have one of these, I'll have a parking expert here, since I think that's been that's probably been the biggest question. Yes.
My concern is about the campus escort service. Over the 3 years that I've been here, the service has really reduced where it will pick you up and drop you off from. And I think that for students who live on campus and students who live in the nearby vicinity, that's a huge safety hazard. And the other concern that I have is that when they make those changes, like when they say, well, we're not going to pick up and drop off from 7-Eleven anymore, they never announce it. There's no clear cut, like, we'll pick you up from this place, we won't go to this far. So you're kind of just left stranded. And like, I know this has happened to many students, like you're just left stranded in a very unsafe, because you've been relying on that, in a very unsafe sort of situation. So I think this is something, I think that it needs to be very clearly defined where you can pick up and where you won't pick up. And then the other thing is that the reason that they always give whenever they, lessen the services is they say that students are taking advantage of it. But I looked on their website and I've heard about it in several orientation sessions, and they never say, like, you can only use it for this, you can't use it for this. So it's never defined. So I think they need to also define, like, when you can and cannot use it. And I would ask that you look into that and also expand the service so that it will go to, like, all of Manoa and Waikiki. And yeah, make sure that students are actually safe when they're being taken home or trying to come to campus from where they live.
Okay. Alberta, do you want to?
Hello. So on your question, Alberta Pukahi, captain with campus security. It is a question that I've been asked recently. So we have our students running our student escort program, and really our priority for the program, and I believe it is in our website, the whole function of the program is for students or community members who are traveling on campus alone at night. That's our priority, to get to them and to get them safely where they're going, from any campus point to any other campus point. Now, we have students who are working the program, and we get bombarded nightly with requests to provide service for individuals traveling through campus as well as the neighboring areas. Because we have students working the program, we have student supervisors who supervise the programs. We have regular users of the programs. They build relationships with the users of the programs, and some of them may feel that, okay, I'll go pick them up. We've been picking them up in neighboring areas of Varsity, and 7-Eleven King Street, down Metcalf, and these are bordering areas of our campus, maybe around College Hill. College Hill we don't have a problem with. We realize people are parking there, but when we're going beyond down to King Street, it really takes us away from the campus, while we have our students in the middle of campus asking for the service, calling us up and saying, can I get safe travel? That's our priority. Our priority is really those on campus. We cannot be picking folks up everywhere. We get requests from St. Louis Drive up the hill. It's affecting our vehicles. Our brakes are getting shot, which takes our vehicle down for 3-4 days until we can get them serviced again. So we're down to one vehicle. We have 2 vehicles dedicated to the program. Now we have to use officers to service the program and helping the students pick up other students. So, you know, we're not trying to disregard issues, but we really have to focus on our priority, which is those traveling alone at night on campus and providing safe travel for them anywhere within the campus area. I know it was a shock for folks, but it really takes a lot of time to meet those requests. And as a time effect, it was taking away from our main purpose. So yes, I did change policy, and well, really it wasn't changing policy. It was sticking to policy and having our escort service continue with our main priority, which is getting folks safely from one campus point to another campus point. So, you know, we really have to prioritize with our resources and what we have, and it gets limited. We lost 6 students to graduation, which is great. So we're hiring. If folks are looking for a campus escort job, we are hiring. It pays okay, but the hours kind of may not be the greatest because we ask for them to stay till 3 a.m. And you know, for those using the service, I ask for some compassion because, you know, from my student escorts, they hear the complaints. And, you know, just a reminder that they're students too. And they're just working and trying to do a job and, you know, trying to make their way through school too. So some understanding would be appreciated. I thank you for your question. And that's really why I came.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
You know, it does make me wonder whether we might be able to think about, maybe we can have this conversation, Richard, about some student volunteers for, at least for walking trips as escorts around campus. I don't know if that would fit in and help maybe ease the burden a little bit, Alberta. If they're going from one side on campus, a matter of walking through a scary part on campus, we could have some, maybe some student volunteers and things like that. I don't know, just as a thought.
It's difficult getting volunteers on Fridays and Saturdays.
No.
I'd like to comment about the problem. If you talk to the bus driver who drives the night shuttle, there's a scheduled shuttle. And if you talk to the student drivers, because sometimes when it's raining, I use the shuttle, but I don't use it every night. But this is the problem. When you ask the security guards at Hamilton Library or Sinclair, they don't even know when our regular night shuttle ends and escort it begins. And the other problem that I see, and I queried the people because I use the computer lab, I take a course in social sciences. So like after 6 o'clock, sometimes I talk to the drivers, you know, when they're going around. So what they tell me is that a regular night shuttle bus doesn't get much ridership because the students, like who come from the dorm and they want to go to Sinclair, they don't either, number one, they don't know when the shuttle bus comes, and then they just want to go when they want to go, and they're not willing to wait for the shuttle bus to take them, and it drops off near Sinclair and they just have to walk. Now I can see if you're a single girl that might be dangerous, but when they're in pairs, it's not so dangerous. So I still think better coordination, letting at least the security guards or the staff of both libraries know when the regular night shuttle comes so they can at least tell people? That would help the problem tremendously. And so that students don't abuse it from the dorm and they're just going to the library and they can, like, you know, certain places the night shuttle does stop at. So that's the problem, part of it.
Well, you know, the other thing we might think about doing, I don't know how hard this is, but one of the beauties of using the bus system here in Honolulu is, you know, you get your iPhone app, you download the bus app, it's called The Bus, and they have GPS and you can see, oh, the A bus is going to be here in 3 minutes. And so you know where it is and you know when it's going to get to the stop, and maybe we can have some folks work on getting our shuttle system on that kind of thing and put out an app for smartphones. There is an app. Okay. There's an app. So.
But then the libraries don't have it, and so they can't help students who ask. I see it's a very frequent question.
Yeah.
This isn't my question. Someone just, they had to run, so they asked me to ask it. She said that there's a person that likes to study in Sinclair Library, but there's no designated quiet zones in there, and anyone can talk, and it's hard to study in there. She wants to know if there's any way that there can be designated quiet areas in the library, so it makes it easier for people who want to go in there and study.
Hi, Irene Harold. I'm the university librarian. It's been really good for me to be here and hear your questions and comments. I appreciate them. The conversation about quiet areas, there are single quiet areas in Sinclair already, so it's just a matter of peer-to-peer enforcement. And you can go down and tell the folks downstairs that people are being noisy, and then they will come up and ask people to either be quiet or to move to a different location. So I think it's more a matter of people just being proactive and being empowered to take control of the situation and use the resources that are available. In answer to the duplex printing, we have older printers, and it is a monetary issue about replacing them, but it's not because we're not sustainability minded in the library. And Steve did a good job about covering all the envelope issues. Hamilton Library is one of the biggest energy hogs on campus. Part of our problem is we have single paned windows. So this is something we've been talking about in addition to repairing the envelope and other areas. So good conversation. Oh, the last comment I was going to make was about the security guards. You may not be aware that they are not campus security. They are an outside contracted agency, and that's probably why they're not currently aware. We just changed companies 2 days ago. So I'll make sure that that's included in their training. But thank you for the comment.
Is that it? Well, listen, thank you. I wish I had answers to every single question. We were doing it, but I think we're moving the ball down the field, and it certainly helps to have these conversations and know what's on your mind. We're working hard. We're trying to make this a better place, and I think you can also tell there's an awful lot of staff came tonight because they really want to know how they can make this a better place. So I want to give a big shout out to all the staff that are here too, and faculty that are really trying to help make this a better place. So give yourself a round of applause. And thank you.